Good evening. Thanks for joining us here on Everything Matters. My name is Foor. I like to start off the evening and kind of just explain why everything matters, why we call it that. Growing up, I grew up in a very religious home, and a lot of great things about that for me, but most of life was looked through only just the spiritual lens. And I have found that there's more to life than just the spiritual lens. People are made up of emotional struggles, practical struggles, spiritual struggles, all those things. And I see God weaving in and playing, working in all those different areas. So Everything Matters is in many ways a response to my own experience where it was just only spiritual. And I think God is in art and music and in our work and in our relationships. He's in all these different things. And so that's where the idea Everything Matters comes from. And so tonight, we actually normally meet on Tuesday nights. And this last Tuesday night, we decided to not do our show out of respect of the things that were going on in our world, out of respect for some people who were grieving and struggling and some different things were going on. So we decided to shut the show down that day and move it today. But I think we have a really important conversation tonight around faith and race. And so I just want to start off by tonight, we're going to do some music and some other things to let you know I'm a pastor, and that is who I am. And I feel like we need to approach these conversations, and we need to go through it with grace and with love and with care. So tonight I brought some of my friends that I care and love very much, and we're going to have a discussion, an honest discussion tonight. But I encourage you as we go through the evening, because we're a church that values grace, is for us to have grace with each other as we honestly and emotionally probably and openly talk about some issues that are really relevant and really important for us to get into tonight. So I have some friends, Jorge, Salazar, Brian Batch, Angie, Kogutz, Kevin's here also. But we want to start the night off. My friend Brian, just an amazing songwriter. Thank you, Brian, for being here.
Happy to be here.
And he's brought his family, and they're all hanging out here too. And in our little COVID studio here where we keep each other apart. But Brian, I'd love for you to just share the song what's the name of the song?
It's called The World.
The World. And I think these guys are going to sing with them too. So Brian, if you just share that song with us tonight.
Sure.
We'd love to kind of jump us into this discussion. So
Sounds beautiful, man. It seems to me a noble intention to show in us the things that we're missing. I hope that we're paying attention. You say be in the world, but not of the world. Our children deserve something more than a world where we can't have a discussion. 'Cause everybody's fighting and cussing. You say be in the world, but not of the world. Be in the world, but not of the world. Be in the world, but not of the world. world, but not of the world. I will be in the world, but not of the
I hope you're clapping
Beautiful.
at home because that was just absolutely amazing. Thank you, Brian, and
Thank
Jorge and Angie. They just hopped in and sang that song 'cause they rolled in here and they were really good singers and able to do that. So, what an amazing way to kind of set up our discussion tonight. And I know you write. You're one of my favorite songwriters because you write from the heart in that way, and you write
Thanks,
what you
man.
see and what you're feeling, and you can feel it through the song when you're doing it. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, that was
Thank you for
beautiful.
doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'd love to just start off tonight a little bit. I really want tonight, I want us to have a conversation. My desire is for me and for our church and for the people who are not a part of our church to end this tonight better. I would like for us to find ways that we can learn and grow. And I'm excited. I want to hear from you guys about what's going on and how you're feeling. But I'd like us to start tonight a little bit for you, just for us to get to know you before we really get into this conversation. I know you guys, obviously. If you can just do me a little quick little introduction, kind of what you do, who you are, maybe in how long you've been coming to Riverbend or been involved with Riverbend in some way. You know, you're a worship leader in the church. But Jorge, can I just start with you and just tell us a little bit about yourself and
Yeah,
what you do.
absolutely. My name is Jorge Salazar. I been in Austin since I was 9. I was born in El Salvador. When I was 9, my family migrated here. I am now been in Riverbend for about 7 years, I believe. Coming on 7 years because I'm about to be my anniversary on Monday actually. So
yeah.
yeah, 7-year anniversary with my wife. So so I've been coming from to Riverbend for about 7 years. I have a construction company here in Austin. We focus mainly on remodeling. That's pretty much who I am
And
at
you
the
do
moment.
some singing at church.
Yeah, I do some
You do
singing
some
at
singing
church. Yeah, I
Some
do.
good
I do.
Stuff. It's good stuff.
Love coming.
Thanks for being here, Jorge.
Absolutely.
Brian, can you share a little bit about us? Give us a little background on you and where you come
Sure.
from.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Brian Batch. I grew up in Midland, Texas, out in West Texas. I kind of moved here to go to school. Went to UT for my schooling. That's kind of what brought me here to Austin. I am a restaurateur. I have a wife and 3 kids. We're a mixed race couple, so like that's beautiful. And I kind of know Riverbend because Casey and myself have a really long history of playing in a band called Alpha Rev together. So
You can tell some stories, can't you?
Oh man,
Oh, cool.
the stories. I mean, I could, but
You
know,
won't.
the stories- I mean, I would do. It would be a testament to a man who's grown so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's kind of how I know.
Yeah.
Riverbend is my connection. So.
Right. And we played music. That's been our connection. We
and
played music
Immerse.
together at Immerse and
Yeah.
built our friendship from jamming and playing and worshiping together. Really,
Totally.
it's just really been really. And you are the owner of.
I hate plugging my restaurant. I
You,
hate it.
but
Plug it. It's so good.
I hate it so much.
it's so we're gonna
So
we're gonna
good.
give you love if you don't because it's
Well,
important.
I appreciate it. I own a restaurant called Bird Biscuit. I co-own a restaurant.
So
called Bird
good.
Biscuit. I'll say.
We came in tonight.
love it.
What was your reaction? You
That's
had
the
no
first
idea
thing
you
I
owned
said.
that.
Yeah, that's
Did
awesome.
you bring some chicken?
Jorge was so excited. He was like, "That's your." He was like, he freaked out. That's your restaurant.
I love it.
But yeah, Bird. If you like biscuits, it's a place to go.
Yeah.
It's a place to be. So
Thank
very
you.
very good. Thanks, Brian. Angie, can you just share a little bit about yourself and
Hi,
where you come from?
everybody. My name is Angie K or Angie Kogutz, whichever is easier for you to pronounce. I am a veteran of corporate America and happily been a full-time musician
Yes.
and professional Netflixer of late. Since 2014 is when I walked away from all office work
Just been
and have just been a self-sustained
musician.
professional musician with a band that some of you might know, the Matchmaker Band, and then I have my own band, the Angie K Band. One of the most important and rewarding things that I do is I lead worship around Austin in churches, about 3-4 churches, and I've been affiliated with Riverbend, which was which is where I got my start, for probably, I was counting it while everyone was talking, like 17
Wow.
years.
You've seen a lot
So
in Riverbend.
back
than the
when
70s.
Carlton and I both had more dark hair. Yes, I'm kidding.
He'll love that.
But
He'll
yes.
love that one. That's very
Yes.
good.
But yes, it's so, I am so grateful for Riverbend for hosting this very tender and personal and admittedly difficult
Very difficult. Yeah.
discussion tonight. But
Yeah.
I know the people of Riverbend, and I know that I know our hearts here, and I know that this is something that's going to be a first step
Yes.
in a lot of healing.
And hopefully less difficult because we all know and love each other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, which is part of the point of tonight,
Yeah.
of doing that together. So I'd love to kind of begin to dive into this. And part of, I think, setting the stage for this is, you know, talking about racism and dealing with this issue. Obviously, all of us have been heartbroken about what's happened with George Floyd and many other instances, honestly. And it's brought this this tension, this hurt, this pain, all these emotions to the front. But I'd love to hear from you guys about your experiences with racism and how that's affected you, because all of you three have different stories, and I think it's really important for us to hear that. So Alex, I'm going to just go around the room here. I'm going to start with you, Jorge, just kind of your experience towards that, being the Latino in the room to kind of represent that way.
Yeah. So, oh man, it's a tough subject, because, and I think I'm a little bit different in the sense that I'm very optimistic, and I usually see the good in people, and that's what I focus on. So seeing the bad is a little bit difficult for me, if I'm just being straight honest, and that's what I want to be. I want to be honest today. And have I experienced it? I think so. You know, coming from a third world country, migrated here at the age of 9. You know, when we first came to the States, we came to California, in Palmdale, California, and at the time, I was the only Hispanic kid in the school there when I came in, so nobody spoke Spanish, no one. And I remember trying to navigate my way through that school, and I was only there for I think 2 months, and trying to navigate school, trying to understand the teachers. Nobody spoke Spanish. The one kid that actually knew a little bit of Spanish, he was a Chicano kid. He only thing he knew was cuss words, you know. And me being, growing up, I grew up in a Christian home. That I didn't know, I didn't do any cuss words at all. So it was kind of interesting relationship there. But I noticed that everybody was there to help me. Every single kid was there to help me. Nobody was taught at least that's how I perceived it. And that kid told me, he goes, "Hey, we want to stay just with us and don't mix with the other kids," which it was interesting that the one kid that we were the Latino in a way, was trying to pull me just to seclude myself and not be with everybody else. And that was my first introduction where I got to see different races, and that was in elementary school in 4th grade. But all I got to see was just experience love from a lot of people, and the one person that actually tried to teach me about separation was the one kid that was in my own race. So I was a really kind of difficult, really weird. I often ponder on that, why was it this one kid? His parents taught him that, or I don't know where he learned it. But growing up, as I've gone older, I kind of have this point of view that I feel very privileged to be in the States. I see my family in El Salvador currently right now, which I have a lot of family over there, who just didn't have or can't even have the same opportunities that I do here. So, and I mean, like right now, currently, their houses are flooding, and
Yeah.
I have family who lives in huts, and there's nothing I can do currently right now to help them because we're miles away, and our problems that I have here are so minute compared to what they're having over there currently right now. Their houses are flooded. They're losing everything.
That must be painful for you.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have this thing that I'm here. I'm super privileged, and I'm very grateful. So anything when I compare them to where I come from, my problems are very, very, very minute.
Yeah.
And so this, I've kind of I think I've shut that side of my mind of labels and race, and then I try to overcome and I'm wanting to be a person that someday I can go back and help. Yeah. So this word race doesn't exist honestly within my mind, and it's something that I'm trying to understand. And because I kind of naturally feel like I see the good in people.
For sure.
You know?
You said to me something earlier about your neighbors that I thought was really interesting. Now, I'd love to have you guys share too, but
yeah.
Tell me what you said.
So,
do you remember what you said earlier?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it was really good about how you felt like you wanted to approach.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things that happen is not because you're purposefully trying to be mean or trying to hurt somebody, and even when it comes to like racial slurs, or anything like that. I know from friends that I grew up with, they would say certain things, and I'll be like, okay, that wasn't nice, but I don't think he understands it, and they have zero knowledge of it. So I think it's lack of education. They're just completely oblivious to it. But and so I sit back and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not educated too when it comes to certain things that people are feeling or being hurt about. And I have this my neighbors across the street. They're great people, and it's a black family. And since yesterday, I've been trying to come up with ways of how can I just come knock on the door and pretty much say like, hey, can I come in and talk to you guys? Can you guys tell me, like, educate me, like, tell me about your world? Because I kind of sometimes think like, even though we live in the same street, we live everything, but we're so separated from even our neighbors and have zero idea what they're going through. So one of the things I'm still trying to get the courage to just go over there, or trying to think of like what I could take to them to their house to be able to say, hey, can we just have the discussion of this? Like, tell me,
Cookies.
teach me.
Cookies.
Oh,
Cookies.
All right. All right.
Can't go wrong.
I want
All right,
you to
got
hold
it.
that thought because I think it's really good, Brian. Because that I think we're gonna get into that, Jorge, and I think that's gonna be a really powerful part. Especially, I think Angie has some things to say that for us that we can listen and learn because she's right here with us saying that too. But Brian, can you just share us a little bit about your experience, or even thank you, Jorge, for sharing that too.
Thank you.
I think it was a great perspective. Can you share us a little bit your experience with racism as we talk about it and experience those types of things?
Sure. I mean, I'll share one very particular moment that is like singed into my mind, and then I'll share another story that's on the other side of it because I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have experienced the good and the bad. So I had a friend. We rode the bus together. I grew up way out in the country, and I had a 2-hour bus ride to school basically every day.
2 hours.
Well, and we waited at a school for like
That's a long
45 minutes,
time.
but it was like 35 miles outside of town. So it was a long trip. And my best friend on the bus, and me and this dude were tight. We did everything together. Like, he'd come out to my house. We would hang out. I would like stay over at his house, and we'd have parties. I knew his mom. I knew his brother. He knew my family, and we were just so tight for years. And then one day, out of nowhere, and it baffled me. He got on the bus and like it was just different. I remember he got on the bus, and it was almost as if he had to. It was like an initiation that he had to go through. And I remember that he called me the N-word when he got on the bus. And I remember it was like this moment where I was like, I don't understand. Like, dude, you're like my best friend. You know what I mean? Like, we're buddies. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like I know you. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? And it split my mind because I couldn't understand how something could flip that quick. And in hindsight, I can look back on it and I can say it didn't flip that quick. You know, obviously, I'm very sure that he was wrestling with something, but I also think that he felt the pressure to be in a group that maybe he felt like he needed to be a part of or wanted to be a part of, and that group just wasn't okay with my race, you know? And that's like, that was one moment. I'm going to share another one because it's also kind of powerful. There was a girl that also rode my bus that I liked her. I liked her a lot, and I wanted to date her, and I asked her out, and it wasn't that she didn't like me. She was very honest with me, and she basically told me she couldn't because I was black. You know, and that was another moment where I was just like, man, you know, but your mom doesn't even know me. You know, like, she didn't even know me. You know what I mean? Like, what? That's okay, you know. And then on the other side of it, you know, those are two stories there. But on the other side of it, we grew up. My mom had MS and wound up passing away when I was, you know, probably like 14 or 15. And my dad built houses, and so he moved away and traveled a bunch. And so myself and all of my brothers, basically, we had a choice at one point as to whether or not we wanted to stay in Midland or go live with my dad in Louisiana. And we all decided, because it was a house that my mom had lived at, we decided we wanted to stay home. And basically, what wound up happening is every single one of us, myself, all my brothers, my sister was a little bit different of a story. We had families that were willing to take us in and raise us, all white families. So, and took us in, treated us like their children, raised us, fed us, loved us. And so I have these different experiences of it where, like, I've experienced the racism, and then I've experienced just the absolute unconditional love. And so for me, it's easy to look at something like racism and know that it's a symptom of the heart. You know, and so that's kind of my experience with it. And now as an adult, of course, like, I have a little bit more perspective, and and I can see it even in different ways. But that's to answer your question.
That's good. I appreciate it. Angie, tell us some of your experience. You know, you and I have talked on the phone a little bit about this, but would love for you to share from your heart what's going on with you.
Yes, as I was listening to both of these gentlemen, all these stories kept coming to my mind, like, okay, now I'm getting confused because there's so many. I hate saying that there's so many, but I'm old, so I've been on this planet.
No, you're not. You're not.
I've been on this planet for a minute. But I appreciate everyone's perspective. I love that you both have such a positive outlook, and that's what I strive for. But I grew up a child in the 70s, a teenager, you know, coming into my teens in the 80s, young, married woman in an interracial marriage in Southeast Alabama in the 90s, and moved to Texas at the turn of the century in the 2000s with two beautiful but not looking like my skin tone children, you know. So I have had a lot of experiences. To be honest with you, as you talked about Jorge, you said you had an era where you were just oblivious to, I'm going to say, the ugliness of the world. And for me, that was the 70s. I didn't know better because, you know, we were a military family, and we were living in Alabama at the time. But my parents, you know, what they modeled in the home was just love for all people. We had no idea that I had no idea that someone might not like me just because of my brown skin until I was somewhere around 10 years old, and we left the safety of military bases and started going to neighboring city schools where it was very different and very segregated, however, not officially, but just self-imposed.
Socially, very segregated.
Exactly. Like children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even the classroom when I walked into, the black kids sat on one side of the room and the white kids sat on another. And the black kids, I'm not gonna lie, were rowdy, kind of like unhinged and doing their thing and, singing Michael Jackson instead of doing work. The white kids actually looked frightened. These are my memories. Quiet, withdrawn, kind of like keep to ourselves, don't. And it was a shocking change for me. And I did not like, I didn't like going to school anymore, with all I felt pulled. I felt also judged because of how I speak. And it was a difficult transition from one naive way of life to a harsh reality.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to fast forward because we could spend a lot of time here, but I experienced, my heart is to love people.
Yeah.
That's who I am. And I had a lot of wonderful white friends growing up, and that was cool. But I have memories of hearing them say boy and stuff like that to people. I do have memories of that. And I just have memories kind of like what Brian mentioned, were like, somebody likes you, but you're black. So sorry, And I have memories of being the only black student in my gifted classes, and having people be very comfortable with making insensitive jokes and statements and starting off looking at me. And back then I was very, very mild and very conditioned not to upset people and to assimilate and to be small and fit in and be quiet and be grateful, that I'm there. And, but I can remember boldly people that I thought were my friends, like, hey, no offense, but you got to hear this, and telling jokes that were, telling racial jokes.
Right.
And somehow through all that, I wound up marrying a white guy. And I earned my stripes, as I told you on the phone, enduring being in an interracial marriage in Southeast Alabama and really getting it from both sides before I moved here. And so
I want to ask you, and we've talked obviously a little about it. There's a lot of emotions going on for those last couple weeks. Tell me, for all of you, just I want to hear just how you've experienced this last couple weeks and what that's done to all of you and how you've experienced that from these experiences. And there's a wide range from you guys, but I'd just love to hear from you how you've experienced this last couple weeks.
If I may.
Yeah.
It was like raising ghosts from the grave, things that I've buried over the last 30 years, experiences that I've had and have tucked away. And I think we talked about your recent sermon about how we numb ourselves to continue to just survive and move forward and question, like what you said earlier about, like, were they really being racist or am I being sensitive? A lot of incidences that I had tucked away and forgotten about, just watching all the pain unfold and manifest in different ways as tears and rage and outbursts. And, there's so many ways that pain is manifesting publicly for us right now.
Yeah.
And to see people be bold, even like the good side, people who have been timid to be bold and stand up and say, this is wrong, things that have happened, hurts that have happened are wrong, and I can't be silent anymore, and I stand with you, and I stand behind you. Like, it's so emotional. I have gone from, like, starting my day off like this to just being face down, sobbing, hyperventilating, and tears, and I've gone from isolating myself and not wanting to talk to anybody and trying to process and feeling raw and feeling edgy and feeling angry and just hurt and just wanting, and then being upset at myself for not feeling like my normal self, and having a lot of memories flood in and having nowhere, feeling guilty that I don't want to see this anymore, but feeling like I do need to stay engaged, and looking for the light, looking for what I know has to come from this, which is, as I mentioned to you on the phone today, I feel like we are a nation that is in labor pains right now, contracting and hurting, and there are moments of, okay, and then, another pain again, but we are birthing something that's going to be a beautiful new life, and I have to believe that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been emotional, but also hopeful, and I'm looking for places where I'm supposed to talk, and places where I'm supposed to be quiet and listen, and places where, I'm praying to God every day to show me where I'm supposed to show up. Show me my opportunities to be a safe place that someone with questions can come and ask their questions and give me the words to say.
Is it hard to express that? You just mentioned something I think it's interesting, when to talk and when to be silent.
Yeah.
I assume, and maybe I shouldn't assume, that's a very difficult journey
It is because
with your past and your experiences of these things.
Because I don't think it's a conscious thing, but growing up we all agreed beforehand, by the way, y'all, to be candid here. So nothing is offensive in the room.
Yeah, we're friends
But
here.
growing up in primarily white spaces, singing in primarily white churches,
Right.
Working in primarily white environments, we're just, I can only speak for myself, I guess, but I know some of my friends feel this way, conditioned
Yeah.
to absorb a lot, say nothing, smile, let things roll off, be professional, we were raised, I know I can remember my mom saying this, people are looking at you more intently than they are looking at,
It's a lot of pressure.
your white friend
Right.
who may be exhibiting the same behavior. And, we experienced that in my home with my brother, who, being a kid out in the neighborhood, getting into shenanigans that crossed the line, the legal line as a preteen, but him being the only person to have legal consequences, and the other, white kids getting to go home to their parents, my brother getting sent away to a diversion center. That was my first. I was about 12 years old. That was the first time where I was like, wow, why did that? That was my first.
When was that?
That was, if I say the year, y'all know how old I am. I just say I was 12.
Just say the era, yeah.
It was in the
I mean,
80s.
Well, my point to that is, Angie, that's a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. So, I mean,
Seeds.
yes. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you've had to deal with that.
Well, thank you for that. Here I am, though, and like I told you on the phone, and I know I'm taking up all the time. My heart is to love people. When I moved
Absolutely.
here, I did not come here with a chip on my shoulder. With any I hope the people that are watching that know me know when they see me, what you see is what you get. I love people. I want to love you. I want to know you. I want to hug you. I want to sing with you. I want to lead you in worship. I want to cry with you. I want to chat with you. I mean, that's who I am. I love people. And
Well, I think, Angie, that's the difficult thing about right now is, I want to love you too.
mhm.
And I want to love these guys.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to figure out how to do that well, to be honest with you right now. Like,
That's that hard thing that
yeah, I think, and then from all you guys to hear, how do I do that
exactly.
in these moments that is meaningful?
Mm.
Because there's just a lot of stuff that's just really confusing, and I love your heart that says you want to love us, but I think for me, I'm going, how do I do that? How do we do that? I mean, for all of you, I think that's what I need to hear. I
Mhm.
think other people also need to hear that too, is how do we do that?
I don't want to hog time away from Brian and Jorge, but
Well, I think they're good to hear what you say, and we'll
Okay.
go to them next.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, what I think, and again, I don't have all the answers. I don't even have the answers to myself,
Right,
because you're talking about loving. That means I have to take a look at myself too.
right.
And I'll be as real as I can be right now. Like it's when I see and read things, I have a moment. It takes me a minute to get back to where I know what God is telling me, that I'm supposed to love those people that see me, don't know me, but know that they don't like me.
Right.
See me, don't know me, but pretty sure that I'm not that educated, or that I'm on some sort of government assistance, or that I have fatherless children, or
Right.
something to that effect, that I have got to love those people too that don't know me
Yeah.
and don't like me already. Like, that's hard. But, that's where I think it starts, is having a very humble and submissive heart to ask God to show you where your biases lie. And only his transformative, love through me, you know what I mean? Like, because I know I am weak
Right.
by myself, but he gives me the strength. He gives me the joy in my heart when I'm feeling crushed, like we talked about. He's the restorer of the joy and the hope.
So,
Yeah.
if and this for all of you, like, I'm sitting in the room here, and that's, I think, the question in his hand. I appreciate what you say, but there's a part of me that really wants to be able to say, these are the things that I can do for people who've gone through the things that you guys have you've all shared some very powerful stories that are real to your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, part of the listening and learning and us understanding as a community is to hear from you guys that say, how do I help love? How do I help? What can I do that's helpful in this situation? What can I do that makes a difference for those who've gone through pain and hurt and sat on the bus and someone called you what they called you? Like, that's where I think the discussion needs to happen for us. That says, what are those things for real? Because there's a lot of stuff. There's a
Yeah.
lot of talk out there right now. Do this, do that. I hear all these messages, and I know a lot of our listeners and our watchers are feeling the same things.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to hear from all of you. I'd love to
Okay.
hear from you what
Yep.
those things are.
If I may,
Yeah.
I think that's a great question. Like, to focus on the solution, right, rather than not just looking at the problem.
Not just feelings.
Exactly. So, and when you ask that question, like, I think, how can you show love? How can you do that? I think we're doing it like this. How we're doing right now is just
Mhm.
approaching your friend, approaching someone, and just, hey, can I talk to you? And please inform me. I think that's like a person. I think that's a first step. Last week I was with a friend of mine, And that's exactly how he approached me. He was like, hey, man, it was the day after the incident with George occurred. And I didn't really know about it. I'm stay pretty busy, so I don't always stay like up to date with social media. But he showed me the video, and I was like, whoa, that's not right. He was like, so what's your thought on it? He's like, and he's a white friend, and he just asked me, he's like, I don't know how to approach this or how to talk to other people about this. He goes, and maybe I'm oblivious. I don't know how I feel. He goes, can you tell me your side of things? And I felt really, it felt good to know that he can trust me.
Absolutely.
And I can trust him and be completely open with it. And I think that opening up discussion is the first step to show you care, you love. Open up a free speech zone where you can just be completely honest. Say things that may be offensive, but knowing that you just don't know. Ask questions that just to get that knowledge out.
I think you just said something very important, which is if only people would take the time to get to know someone. A lot of foundations are built on fear and just ignorance. When I say ignorant, I don't mean
Yeah, we're with you.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and like, with, I don't want to be part of, personally, I don't want to be part of the social media. Like, I don't want to be part of a trend
Sure.
without knowing exactly what I believe. And so when I was telling you, Aaron, and I mentioned that I want to go over to my neighbor's house, I don't want to post something on without really knowing, like, hey, man, like, I want to be educated on this. Like, I want something that I post that, people that know me from social media, whatever, friends,
It's doing something. Right?
it's doing something, but like, they're gonna in a way kind of label me, to that. But I for it to have a meaning, that I actually did something, that I actually did a little bit of research, not just posting something because it's what's trending, And I don't mean this in the most, like, I want to be very, very sensitive, not like, I don't want to say trending in like in a diminishing way, like, there's a lot of value why everything is being posted right now. But for me, I think like opening up the discussion with my neighbors and people that I don't know them, which is sad. They're my neighbors across the street. Like, we see each other every day. We wave hi. That's as far as it goes. But I think opening that conversation, I think it would be good. I would hope. I don't think that they can get offended by me just coming up to them and be like, hey, here's some beers and can we talk?
Y'all may have made a mistake asking me to come because I talk a lot. But
It's okay. We need to hear you tonight, Angie.
I was
It's
just
good.
going to say, I think that's a huge thing that's changed. In the 70s, when I was a little girl, we knew our neighbors on both sides and up and down the street and across the street. And we were all different races and ages, because of the military we had.
Yeah.
Korean, white, black, Chinese, you know what I mean? Like, we had everybody represented. And we would come outside and pull out our little folding lawn chairs and,
Cool.
take a lasagna across the street and things like that. And, but I think that people just, for reasons I can't really explain, but,
Yeah.
we don't know each other anymore.
Hey, Brian, I'd love to hear what you have to say on this. I think I've seen you. You're very introspective, and you've kind of taken some of this stuff in. But for you, like, I'm very moved when I heard your story about saying, I've had these difficult experiences, but you also had white families take you in, essentially. You've experienced that love on that side. How do you see right now, like, so many people are just struggling to figure out, how do we express ourselves? How do we show love? And you see it in the Facebook posts and the Instagram posts and the stuff, but I'd love to hear how you feel. What's real in this thing? Because there's a desire to share love in this. It's hard.
For me, one of the first things that I think about is just the importance of really recognizing every single person in this scenario is their own person. You can't take a group of black people or a group of white people or a group of police and lump them all together and say really anything about anything that's going to really strike at the core for me of where we need to get to, because every single person is an individual. They all have their own experience. And, you know, I went down to the protest at the Capitol when they were, you know, burning flags. And I don't know even, I know now why I went down there. When I went, it was such an impulse to go that I didn't know what was happening. I just left my house. My wife was really mad at me. She was very, very, very angry at me for this. Because I opened my computer and I saw these police officers on the bridge and these protesters on the other side, and at first I didn't realize it was in Austin, and then I realized, and this is in Austin, and I just had this desire within me to be like, dude, like, you need to go down there. I don't know what it is that you think you're going to do because this situation looks kind of crazy, but I'm telling you to do it. It wasn't me. I felt like I was being told, you just need to go down there. Like, I don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but somebody told me to go. And so I went. And I stood back when I got there at the police station, and I just kind of watched and took it all in. And I saw, you know, pain. I saw hurt. I saw rage. I saw confusion. I saw people who were just there to watch, you know, people who just were there to just kind of like watch what was happening. They just didn't really know. And so I made my way to the front, and there were people on the steps, and they were, you know, chanting, you know, F the police, F the police. And I made my way to the front, and they gave me the mic. Like, I went up there to get the mic, and like they surprisingly just gave me the microphone because I guess they thought I was gonna like, you know, say something. And I did have something to say. And so,
It's
you
the
know,
cool hair.
I took the mic, and everybody was cheering me, and I was like, well, don't cheer me yet because, like, you know, you haven't heard what I have to say, you know. And then on a dime, like, the whole crowd just started booing me, and I was just like,
Wow.
well, listen, like, don't boo me
Really?
just yet either, because like I might say something that maybe might be meaningful, you know. And then everyone was quiet, and I just had this moment, and I looked out, and I was like, wow, I'm in over my head. I was like, wow, like, so I'm here right now, and I don't know how I got here. And I tell this story to say that, you know, for me, what I said was I totally whipped it. They ripped me off the stage. It was a very quick speech. I won't tell you what I said. I got booted.
Well, that didn't go well.
But got booted. But like,
Wow.
for me, the thing that I'm kind of coming to understand within myself, at least, is it's like every single lens that you have between things, it just causes one more distortion that you don't see something clearly. And for me, unless I really am working on myself to take my lenses away, the only thing that somebody sees when they're interacting with me is a distorted reflection. So if I really want to be impactful in this time, the most meaningful thing I feel like I can do is represent a clear vision of who I am. Now, that means I have to really be working on understanding who I am and what I am and really digging into that. But I'll tell you, man, like, there have been times when I've been out with my family where I knew somebody was being racist, but like, I was in a place within myself where, man, I gave him a smile. I gave him a smile, you know what I mean? And it was a genuine smile. It wasn't a fake smile of like, you're being racist towards me, so like, I'm gonna fake smile. No, it's like, bro, I want you to see who I am. Like, because I want you to know that when I see you, like, I am giving you the love of the benefit of the doubt that maybe you're not giving me, but I'm hoping that if you see that I'm giving it to you, you'll recognize what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, moving through this time in a way where I can just be as honest and as real with myself as possible and continue working on myself, I find is one of the more meaningful things I feel like I can do. But I also, like I said at the beginning, I recognize that every person is in their own place. They have their own experience We have to respect it. We have to listen. I can't think that what I say is in any way more important than what somebody else has to say.
Very true.
And that's where I feel like we're at, is where everyone's in this moment where we're all trying to figure out together how to move through this. What I know is not beneficial is guilt. I don't think guilt is beneficial. I don't think that I don't want my friends who are white feeling guilty because of 400 years of slavery. Like, I don't think that's beneficial. I think really trying to understand and really trying to make change and really trying to love, I think that stuff is beneficial, And so for me, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this story, and I at the risk of whatever.
Hey, we're here. We're here. This is what we're here for. I want to hear it.
You brought me here, so I'll tell you this story. So I had this really nice young lady come by Bird, and she came by, and she had these signs that she had made, and she still had the paint on her fingertips, and there were these signs that were Black Lives Matter. And she came up and she asked me. She was like, "Can I put these over your restaurant? And is that okay?" And I know now that it's wise for me whenever I am in a position where I'm unsure to take a step back and really just consider things, I not to act too quick. And so I told her, I was like, let me think about that. I was like, thank you so much. I see what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing. Let me think about that, And I really, really reflected. I really reflected for a while about why the initial moment there was something in it that made me feel uneasy. But I had to be honest with myself, because I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm past that point of lying to myself. And as I reflected, what I came to was this. When I went down to the protest, what I saw were so many different things, so many different messages, so many different energies, some of which I don't want to be associated with. I don't want to be associated with rage. I don't want to be associated with violence. I don't think we should kill the police. I actually don't feel that way. And because of that, and these people all had Black Lives Matter stuff on. And so for me, I was like, I'm very unclear as to what that message is right now. For my own self, I'm black, and I'm telling you, I'm unclear as to what that message means. And because of that, I would much rather present my message into the world, which is the way that I'm just going to live my life. And I know right now we're in a position where people feel as if they have to give a voice to something that needs to be spoken, and that's true. It's very true. I simply want to really know exactly what I'm giving a voice to and make darn sure that whatever I'm giving a voice to, I know what that is. And for me, with Bird, I sat her down and I had a conversation with her because I knew I owed her a conversation. Yeah. And so we sat down because she came back the next day, and I really explained to her where I was at with it and why. Because you got to understand, every person that comes to Bird, again, everyone has their own experience. Every single person who comes to Bird has a different experience with the idea of what Black Lives Matter is. And what I want to do at my restaurant is to love people and to make people feel welcome. And so if I'm unclear in my own self from going to the rally as to what that actually, and the thing is, I know what it is that it means. I know what it is that they're saying. But when you get distortion, you get different things that are unclear. And that's what's happening. I think if everyone were to be within themselves and really try to understand how to see things from not a place of rage, it would be a clear thing, and it would be very, very effective. And in some places, it is very effective, very, very effective. In that circumstance, it wasn't, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Dude, I'm telling you. Can we, this is so important, Brian. Can we do that in the 30-second Facebook post? You too, Angie. I think what he's saying, this takes time. It feels to me like it takes time. It can't, our whole medium
I was
is
trying
talking.
to just come up with one sentence that's just. do your own research, and education is really key, because I believe the message is being distorted. I don't believe that
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter started as kill the police
Yeah.
and all of that. That's what I think. I think it was an awareness-raising movement
Yeah.
that has been
Absolutely.
Distortion.
co-opted, distorted, and in some measures intentionally. That's what I think. To make people wonder if it's something they would stand behind, and to give a negative, connotation to something that was started to just be an awareness-raising, a good thing, So
And Angie, the unfortunate thing is, because of that, what winds up happening is then, instead of speaking the message that is the power behind what that message is saying, then there's a reason just to not say anything, which is terrible.
And we talked earlier, right? And I
Yes.
said, this is so hard,
yes,
for the white guy in the room.
yes. And you said some things that my mind's like, remember this and remember
Right.
that, so I can.
Because
speak on
it's
it.
like, I started off this thing, what do I say?
Yeah.
What do
there
I, what do I
is-
do? I'm sitting here going, like probably a lot of other white folks that are listening, going, what do we do? This
Yeah,
is
and
so hard.
I know some wonderful white dudes, and women. But I'm just saying, you're right. The guilt thing, I know some people are just fed up with feeling like I'm supposed to feel guilty, or it's open season on white guys, white men especially. And I agree that all that does is foster defensiveness and anger and closed ears and closed minds and hearts, and people feel attacked, which goes both ways, honestly. People feel attacked, so we're not hearing each other, and so we have to find a different way to. Well, we need some people to. You said, what can people do? We need some bold leaders to put down the defensiveness. And I hate saying both sides. I hate that there's sides. But, unfortunately, our nation is really divided right now. So we need some bold leaders to lay down, the defensive armor and be vulnerable. Hard word for me my whole life. Vulnerable, and be willing to cross the line, listen, hear, you know what I'm saying, educate, like you were saying. I want to go over to that guy's house and let him tell me about his life, to be bold, and then that guy to be open and willing to have you,
Right.
I don't have the answers, Aaron, but, I think that's where it starts is we're all offended, right? We could be, you know what I'm saying? We could all find
Yeah.
reasons to be offended, but we need to get past the offense somehow
Well,
and start to listen and talk to each other.
I like what Brian said, is becoming, if I understood it right, becoming the best version of yourself and being able to be, not bring all the layers, but pretty much taking all the mask off, becoming
Authentic.
authenticity within yourself. And I think, and you're talking about leadership, and I think those two go hand in hand. I think us as individuals, we can become leaders in the sense of, okay, if I can present myself the best version of myself, I can help change the narrative of who, for us, the Latin community is. And I've always seen that as a challenge. I grew up in a great home with loving parents.
Yes.
And I think they did a great job preparing me for that, to put me and to always tell me, you were meant for greatness.
That's wonderful.
You were meant for greatness. We came here, and you are going to do great things.
Do you feel a lot of pressure?
No,
Okay.
I see it as a challenge. And so any time, I would say that the times that I've encountered an where I see that grace is an obstacle, and I don't want to go on this like crazy positive rant, but obstacles and fears are some of my friends. I that's how I see the world. Obstacles, fears, bad things are my friends because they help me become stronger. So when I've seen these challenges of race, I've always seen them as a challenge. I approach them as a challenge. Granted, I married a white girl.
You could
know?
say it.
Yeah.
You could say
You
it.
can have to
We're
say
all
it.
being real here
And-
tonight.
and-
You can say you
and
married a
maybe
white girl. She's
if
sitting
I-
right over
So
there.
She's sitting
everybody
right
in the
over
room
there.
is married to somebody
Yeah,
white.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
where we're at. Okay.
So, and babe, if I may, you know, my wife's family, she's a pastor's daughter of a church in Missouri, and the town is pretty much predominantly white, right? I come in as a young boy, totally in love with that girl. Not just any girl, but the pastor's daughter. And if you know in our circles of yeah, it's like that is, you know, it's not an easy road to get. And so I saw it as a challenge. I was in love with that girl, and I said, you can ask all my friends, I said, I'm gonna marry that girl. And that's a whole nother story. But one of the challenges now that as you guys are talking about stories are coming to life, you know, I think one of the challenges was that my certain people in the family were not completely for it because I was a different race. And also I didn't come from a pastor's home. My parents were not pastors. So, and they didn't know. And I think, and my wife talked about how she would talk to her family and got to a point where it was like, I'm just gonna let it be and let God take, you know, control. But I always remember in my mind it was a challenge. I was like, I'm gonna get that girl no matter what. I'm gonna marry her. I'm in love with her. I'm gonna marry her. And I think over time, you know, the family came around, which we're extremely close. I mean, her parents and I were really, really close. But I think part of it is that they just didn't know. They uneducated, you know, in that subject. And I think I've changed their perspective on what the Latino people are, because now they have one in their family, you know, and they love it. They love everything. I mean, my in-laws were just here recently, and they don't know much about the food or anything. My wife ended up cooking a Hispanic breakfast, you know, and they were like, this is the best, you know, and so like it's introducing to a new world, right? So I think going back, I think we can become us being authentic and becoming the best versions of ourselves helps change and educate other people as, you know, oh, he's different and they're not all the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're unique. You
You're
are who you
are
are.
unique, and then be able
Yeah.
to change that. So I think I can't change. I don't have control of nobody else's life or mind or anything, only our own. So I can be a leader. Each individual person can be a leader and be able to change that. And unfortunately, I think like the message, and this is a question for you guys. Do you think that message has been distorted because of the minority of people who just completely, like the Black Lives Matter? Do you think it's just been distorted because of those who actually created, you know, a riot, or not a riot, but pretty much,
Well,
you know,
I mean, there are some people who are rioting
yeah.
who may not be fully aligned. I mean, like you were talking about a trend. For some, it's a trend right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I pretty much promise you, like when this started, it was a peaceful awareness raising.
Is that hard for you, Angie? That it feels like
I
a trend?
feel like,
Is that difficult for you?
well, what's hard for me is the assumptions made. I mean, like we talked about, this country is divided.
Yeah.
We don't like it, say the cold hard truth, but it is.
Yeah.
And so you're always getting two narratives, and it just really depends on who are you listening to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is true. I see videos of rioting taking place that's not necessarily black folks, if I can just
No, you can
Just
say
have the
that.
mic.
This is a
Yeah.
safe
It's
place,
not
right?
always black
course.
people that's,
No.
you know, busting out windows and spray painting things. There's plenty of videos around to support that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be, oh, Black Lives Matter is destructive, and, you know, they want to tear everything up, set everything on fire and all. That's not how this started.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the impression a lot of people have right now.
Well, I have to tell you, I appreciate your honesty so much. Like, to me, to get to hear all of you guys talk about this stuff is incredibly powerful for me, incredibly healing for me in some ways. Because I think I've been watching a lot of these things and going like, what other people think about this? Because all you hear is the narrative from whatever's going
Yeah.
on there. And to hear you say, this is how I feel, my friend,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with whatever how you feel about it. But it's good to hear from a real source that says, this is how, someone who's experienced racism for a long time.
Can
in a
I
lot
just
of
say one
ways.
thing about
yeah,
that?
go ahead.
I don't ever want to be defined by it. I've tried my whole life. Like I said, I'm only telling you all this because you asked me, but
right.
from your interactions with me and people that are watching this right now, I mean, would you have ever guessed that I have had so many arrows pierce me?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how I want to live my life. It's defined by, you know, moments people have had.
Yeah.
Well, oh, please, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, and I like what you said about being, both of you said this, you have a chance every day, everywhere you go, to be representative of not only a Christian, but also
Light.
someone may have never met anyone like you before. And my whole life has been that I can't tell you how many times I've had someone say to me, you know what, you're really the first
Yeah.
black person I ever really got to know. I've had that my whole life. You were going to say something.
Well, like, I mean, I'll try to be quick because there's just a lot of stuff
Yeah.
swirling around.
This is,
I mean, because, like, you know, and as much as I think that that's true, it's gotten to a point now where I also feel like that carries with it the responsibility to educate ourselves so that we can put actions into place that can have meaningful change. Because what is still the fact of the matter is how George Floyd died,
yes.
Yeah.
which is tragic. What's still
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that obviously criminal justice reform needs to happen. Like, those kind of things shouldn't happen. So we and everybody can condemn that. And I can say Black Lives Matter, and I'll say Black Lives Matter. And that's a different thing for me saying that than getting caught up in the bubble of just putting it out there and not really being able to express what you mean by that. You know what I mean? Because like, obviously that's the case, you know? And people get upset when you say, well, all lives matter, not just Black lives, but that's also true. So
Yeah.
that's just truth, you know? So one of the things I'm working on within myself is like, okay, cool. So, okay, Brian, you're working on being a good version of Brian. Great. Now, like, what are you going to do? Like, because the reality of it is still something needs to happen. Like, the way that went down, that the reforms need to change. And I'll tell you, I watched something, I was listening to an interview between two people, and dude, the church has got to figure this out, because somebody said something that was real true, which is like a lot of churches have two different Jesuses. Two different understandings of who Jesus is, two different ideas of what that means. And you can see that in America right now. You can see that. So, like, the church also has to reconcile that.
Hey, what do you think, Angie? I mean, I think you're right. I think this is the scary stuff to talk about in some sort of form. But I think what you just said is true. I mean, you can see it, Brian. Tell me how you feel about that statement, Angie, because that's.
I feel like this is a time for churches to be bold.
Yeah.
People are looking to the church to give guidance. Or the church needs to be shouting about love and about honesty and truth and you know what? I mean, this is how it is. I mean, we need
Leaders.
white people too who have the voice and the audience to be bold and to be active. I know you're saying, well, what can we do? But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
just not discounting things and just not sweeping things under the rug and avoiding things, these tough issues, and being willing to open up forums like this to just like start the discussion, create safe spaces to have these talks. And you know, each individual knows what your circle of influence is, whether it's just to be able to be a representative by how you live, or if you're in a position in a company or government or something. I mean, people I think are afraid of having something come back on them and losing something that they have, offending others, losing friends, losing
it's so fragile.
status.
You know, it feels so fragile, Angie, that like I shared this with you earlier. It's hard. Like I sit as a pastor who I have things in my heart and convictions too, but I'm standing there going, okay, what do I say to this group of people? I mean, I felt that Sunday when I was preaching. I was like, okay, what do I say? Like, what do I even have to
Because
say? That's
people are wondering, what is the
Right.
church going to say
Right.
today?
Yeah.
But it's. I mean, that's what this is the stuff that I'm learning that helps me so much because it's so confusing. It's so difficult, and I think I need that encouragement from you to say, "Hey, be bold about love. Be bold about
I mean, that's
us
the
having
only place I
discussion."
know to start
Right,
from.
right.
And we let that be the ruler.
So, I love that. And for all of you, I'd love to just hear, and we're going long, but who cares? I mean, you guys are amazing. How does, I mean, we kind of dug into it a little bit, but how does faith in this issue, what does it mean for you guys? Like, how does this, you guys got into a little bit, but I'd really love, and that's the point of tonight, because we're you know, at the end of the day, we all love God and are Christians, and we are connected as family.
Yes.
I look at you guys as family. Like, this is not. So how do we integrate this? You said, Brian, America has two Jesuses. You know, I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys think about the faith and mixing this issue, because it's really important for us to hear that from all of you.
One quote that I really liked was somebody said, "You can't legislate heart issues." You know, we're talking about, you know, needing reforms, and we do. But if somebody's going to do that act that we saw, I mean, that's a heart issue. You know, and so like for me, it's just really very much being. And not even just being honest with ourselves, because I think sometimes you can get, you know, fooled by your own environment, because, you know, a lot of people go to church with the same people who think the same thing, people who feel the same way. And so, like, even in church, it can be tough, because you can find yourself in a position where, like, you'll wind up looking around and everybody just thinks the same thing and feels the same way
Just reinforcing the same things.
that you do. And so unless you get outside of that and really intentionally put yourself in environments and scenarios where that paradigm is challenged, like, you may never really know exactly what is going on, you know. And so one of my hopes with, you know, your question about faith is it's having faith enough to put myself out there, man, to talk about things like this, you know. And for the church, man, I'll say it. To not be afraid to say things that might mean you might lose tithe money.
Yeah.
You got real right there. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
To not be afraid to say those things.
Because let's just be honest, it comes down to that. It's hard, and I'm not gonna lie. That I've been in the church work thing for a long time, and that's a hard thing. But what you said's true. I appreciate that so much. I really do.
Before we go to the next person, I just wanted to say one thing, which is you talked about someone that could commit the act that was committed against George Floyd. That's a hard issue. I just wanted to, we haven't really talked about what helps reconcile an act that we can't change. The thing happened. It happened. Everyone saw it. It's what comes after that, which is where all this hurt comes from. And historically, what comes after that has not been any measure of reconciliation.
No, you can say it. I want you to be honest about it.
You want me to say
Yeah,
it?
you just be honest about that.
You try to make everybody in America mad.
No, I'm not trying to make it, but
Okay.
I think I want you to
Okay.
safe place, Angie. You gotta be, you
Okay.
gotta real.
Educate us.
Okay. Even in matters where there have been, thousands of eyes on a situation, video evidence, that's still not a guarantee for black people that there will be an indictment by a grand jury, that there'll be charges filed. And if you get that far, that when you get to a courtroom that, you're on a level playing field with charges that meet the crime. And if you get a conviction, I mean, each step is, there's a smaller and smaller percentage of this happening,
Yeah.
Oh, well, if we get this far, then we're lucky if the sentence, fits the crime. And I think that's what's hurting, for people. Because you talked about legislating hard issues. That's true. When someone is determined to do something ugly, fatal, like what happened to George and Ahmaud and all of,
Yeah.
I mean, that thing happened. But how do we,
Sure.
you know what I mean? There
Yeah,
has to be
justice.
some legislation. There's, for people of color, I feel the injustice hurts as much or worse
For sure.
than the act of, of course, someone dying. I mean,
Yeah, it's
that's,
painful.
what can you compare that to? But to see injustice carried out over and over and over, and then having to find a place for that. And you talked about how does your faith play into that?
Yeah. Well, that's where the rubber meets the road in this whole thing. You
Yeah.
know.
It's
Yeah.
deciding to be angry or to give that to God, for me, and to trust. I had someone very wise say to me that it's either going to be on this side or the other. I mean, of course, everyone's on a different journey. Everyone has the same, opportunities to repent and to receive salvation, But, just trusting that, you're not always going to see redemption on this side.
Yeah. It's hard though, isn't it?
Growing into a maturity spiritually
Yeah.
to live that way and accept that, live like that in your mindset where I don't even have expectations anymore
Mm.
in the court system. I just really don't.
Yeah. That's tough.
I just don't. So right from the get-go, I'm already processing this in my mind, like not to expect anything,
Wow.
Earthly, and,
Well, I circle back to you talking about your brother getting legally in trouble when everybody else is not in trouble who's white.
yeah, I'll never
I mean,
forget
that is a
my mother.
this is a long journey, is what I'm telling you,
Yeah.
of those same things. And the actions are different, but it comes from the same heart that says there's a different set of rules for you than it is for other people.
And, I'm not trying to sit up here and sound big to me at all. I'm sharing my life experiences.
Yeah.
And I still walk into this church and other churches and into the world and my spaces, and I smile and I love you, and I don't blame everybody for what,
Yeah.
I don't blame a group of people for things that have happened over my lifetime, and I judge people on my interactions with them and their character, and but I also, I feel like I can't go through my life and act like these things never happened
Right.
either.
Can't. Well, that's the numbing part of it. So you guys are amazing. And
Yeah, I just wanted to say with the faith part, the Bible says where there is no vision, people perish. And Brian, you mentioned about leadership, standing up. I think, we've talked about what we can do is, open up forum. What also we can do is be ourselves, be pure, but also, for anybody, as you guys said, being in a position of leadership, the leaders is the one who project the vision.
Yes, they set the tone.
They set the tone. And a good leader would give us a good vision, and everybody just kind of follows. And I think that's kind of where I feel like leaders of faith need you were saying, there's two different Jesus. No, like we need to unite and say, hey, we need to stand up and move and push this direction towards love, towards bringing everybody together, not dividing, bringing everyone together and projecting that vision so that we can all,
1,000% agree.
come together.
are these are good things to start with, having a conversation?
My prayer is that this is the start of many conversations.
Mine is too.
Yeah.
I hope that other people will do things like this. Because for me, just hearing your story in a deeper way has been very heartbreaking, but also inspiring. When I hear all of you talk, I think what God's doing, and we need your voice in this. And we're going to continue to have these conversations. I think it's necessary for us to see some change that we're talking about. I think it's necessary. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I feel closer to you just from just having this conversation tonight. And, I still feel like with all that's been going on this last couple of weeks, it's been, gosh, man, I feel like I've struggled about what do we do? How do we react? What do we say? Just a lot of wrestling. I know a lot of people have been wrestling too, but I keep coming back to this place you just said, Jorge, about unity and being together. And, one of the ways that I feel like we find that, and I want to spend some time doing that, is just all of us are musicians in this room in some way, shape, or form, and is to sing together and to pray together. And I want to take some time. I know it's long, but I don't really care. Because at this point, if you like it or not, this is just for us to begin to heal. And I feel like I need this, and I think you guys do too. And I have a feeling other people who are watching need this too. So I want to just, we got some songs, we're going to play them, and we'll see what goes on with this. But if you're at home watching and you're a part of this, I want you to take some time to pray. I want you to sing with us. I want you to really let this conversation sink in. I think that it's important for us to do that. So let's sing a little of the God of the City, and if we're feeling it, do it as well too. But you guys are amazing singers. I'm gonna let you do your thing. Sound good?
Yes. Jesus, we know you're over this and in the midst of all that is taking place right now, Lord, and we just look to you. We cling to you, to your promise, your word that you'll never leave or forsake us, Lord. And we know that no one can conspire against us and it not, if we trust in you and believe in you, turn into good, Lord, and we're holding to that, Jesus. You're the God of the city. You're the King of all the people. You're the Lord of the nation. You are. You're the light in this darkness. You're the hope to the hopeless. You're the peace to the restless. God, you are. 'Cause there is no one like our God. No, there is no one like our God. For greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city. Yes, greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city.
You're the God, you're the light in the darkness, you're the hope for the hopeless, you're the peace to the restless. You are. You're the God of the city, you're the King of our people, you're the Lord of this nation. You are. And there is no one like our God. There is no one like our God.
Oh, yes. For greater things have yet to come. Greater things are still to be done in this city. I believe it. The greater things are yet to come. Greater things are still to be done in this city.
Lord, you are with us here tonight, and if you're watching here tonight, God, I believe you're creeping into everybody's home. And Lord, we need you so bad in these moments. The pain, the despair, the frustration, the anger we've seen and we feel, God, we need you so bad. So Lord, for those who tonight who are just hurting, who are struggling, God, I pray that you meet them right where they're at. For those who are angry, God, I pray you just meet them right where they're at. You care for them and love them. God, give us wisdom as a community of how you want us to act, of how you want us to treat each other, of how we can glorify you in this. I know it sounds hard and it sounds crazy, but God, give us the ability to be able to glorify you in this. May your light shine on who you are through this entire thing. I'm thankful for my family here. I'm thankful for my brothers and sisters and what you allow us to do together. And God, I pray that this is what people see when they see the church. They see this. They don't see division. They don't see hurt and pain, but they see unity. They see love and care and peace. And people doing life together. So God, help us figure that out. We need you. We need you so bad. Would you guys sing it as well with my soul? I want people to sing this with us at home if they know it. If you know this song, it's powerful. And this song, even though it's a different version, was written when a guy was in complete despair and just messed up, and everything in his life was falling apart. And he wrote these words, "It is well with my soul," that we're going to sing. So would you sing it for us, Angie, and you guys sing too as we join in?
Yes, oh. You know, grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. Yes, through it all, it is well. Oh, through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. Said it's well with me. Far be it for me to not believe, oh Lord, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me, yeah, you're gonna throw it in the midst of the sea. 'Cause through it all, my eyes are on you. Yes, through it all, it is well. Oh yeah. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. And trust in him, waves and wind, they still know his name. Oh, let go my soul and trust in him, waves and wind, they still know your name. The waves and wind, they still know your name. So sing it as well. It is well. Yes, it is, God. With my soul. We trust you, Lord. It is well. It is well, oh, it is well with my soul, yeah, it is well, it is well with my soul. One more time. It is well, it is well with my soul. We believe, Jesus.
Amen. I can't even tell you what it means to me that you guys would come and do this tonight and have this conversation, and it means the world to me. And I hope for everybody watching that this is the beginning of the discussion. It is not the end. And I hope that others will keep having these conversations in living rooms, in cafes, in parking lots, at concerts, whatever we're doing. This needs to happen. And I believe this is what God wants the church to do. So, Angie and I promised we weren't going to cry, but we're doing it tonight. So,
Trying to hold each other.
it's good. Thank you for being with us tonight. Please come and join us at church on Sunday. We have 2 services this week that we're doing. It's a little bit different. So check in on that. And, man, I hope you share with your friends what's going on here at Riverbend. I think God is moving and doing some things here that are really important. And I'm glad that we're a part of it. So thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks for sticking around for I don't know how long we've been at it tonight, but thank you for being a part of this tonight. And we will see you soon. Thank you, guys.